Hello, everybody, and welcome to the March 22nd Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
4 races to bring you for our last Trips and Traps of the inner track in 2011, 2012. We'll get things started with the overnight stake in here. The limit stakes for 3-year-old fillies going a mile. We're going to look at the 5 Down by Law, who stumbles badly at the start, and the 2 Zucchini Flower.
Yeah, Zucchini Flower will just get left, and you'll see that more in the pan. But we wanted to show you first the head-on of this race and show you that you see her go down very badly in that race. And I think that Down by Law, she recovers fairly well. I don't think it cost her a ton of ground at the start, but something like that shakes a horse up, and she didn't exactly have a perfect trip after that anyway, Eric.
No, she didn't. She runs very well throughout the race. Just fades a little bit late here, but all in all, she runs very well throughout most of the race here. We'll pause it. There's Zucchini Flower, and there's Down by Law, and Zucchini Flower is going to have a little bit of a tough time finding room as they make their way into that first turn.
Yeah, you know, you'll see Alan Garcia. He doesn't get unsettled. She gets way slow, but then he takes her outside, and she ends up 4 wide here as they sort of slowed up the first turn. She's outside now of Down by Law. After that, she's going to settle in behind her. It's kind of odd how she ends up where she is here, outside of Down by Law. But eventually, she's going to end up inside of Down by Law as the race progresses.
And
behind her.
And behind her as well. She runs great in here, I thought, but considering everything that goes on in the first turn, backs off the pace here a little bit, but a very solid effort. She's going to win the race here, and Down by Law is up there on the outside now in about the 3 or 4 path, once again tracking a fair pace up front.
Yeah, Down by Law never really gets a breather in this race, and listen, she's no superstar, but I thought that this was a step in the right direction from her first 2 maiden races, and better than those races, and that she had some trouble. She never really got a comfortable position in the race, and she still ran okay. How good she is remains to be seen, but I think she can run a little bit better than she'll look coming out of this race. And while Zucchini Flower only wins the race by a nose, I think she was just much the best. And frankly, the winner, Wicked Miz, she of all the horses had everything go her own way. Runner-up, Wicked Miz, yeah. She had everything go her own way. She's one I'd be looking to bet against in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she did have a little bit of pressure here, and I'm not so sure, she's one that I would necessarily take a stand against here. I just love the way that, Zucchini Flower is able to split horses in here, come up and, be able to run down Wicked Miz. It was a strong effort by Zucchini Flower. And you still have Down by Law, who's plugging away on the outside there. You have to wonder if it wasn't for the bad stumble and being a little bit wide on that first turn there, if she wouldn't be able to be a bit closer at the finish here.
Yeah, I think it's not impossible that 2 and 5 could have been the exacta if this was as we like to say, this was a race run down a straightaway. There's Lisa T, the Todd Pletcher horse, that just sucks up money. She was 8 to 5 in here. A horse you want no part of going forward. Zucchini Flower, I don't know, how good overall these horses are, but I think the Zucchini Flower could be okay moving forward for Grand Motion. And Down by Law might be one of those rare Todd Pletcher, Bobby Flay horses that's not dramatically overbet the next time it runs.
That you might actually like.
Yeah, it's also possible.
Second race, we'll take a look at TRIPSE. This is a 2 other than allowance optional claimer going 6 furlongs for 4-year-olds. And a big shuffle job here for TRIPSE.
Yeah, I don't, it's not, trips are not always, having horses that are getting in trouble, that kind of stuff is overrated. And so the more you watch and the more you pay attention, it's race dynamics are what help horses and hurt horses. And TRIPSE seems like a horse that, I don't know if I would consider this a great race dynamics example, but he just loses any kind of position in the race and ends up in no man's land. I think it's almost amazing he finished 4th in this race.
Well, the dynamics are against him here because the horses that are going to run 1st and 2nd here are pretty much in the clear. Your runner-up is Ewitz, who's outside the leader right now, and the winner, K. Posse's, stacked up about 3 or 4 wide there on the outside. So, TRIPSE has not too fast a pace to be able to run out here. Lost some position going into the turn and now has to pass every horse in the field.
I agree. Now, part of the losing position may have been his own fault, but I agree with you. It was a race. Hewitts, who's 2nd, he's forwardly placed. He runs 2nd. He has the lead right now. Actually, on the outside is the eventual winner. As you pointed out, K. Posse, I'm not exactly sure where he came up with this effort. I don't know how strong a race it was. You can see TRIPSE in the back of the field. It doesn't really matter at this point, but he'll finish 4th. I just feel like TRIPSE is a horse that's kind of had lousy setup after lousy setup. You would point him out in Talking Horses a couple of races ago. He had some trouble in the stretch. He does at least come running enough at the end that I'm looking for him a race where maybe he can get some pace to run into and maybe he doesn't get hampered down on the inside.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a horse to watch out for because he's going to have this effort in which he was 4th, beaten 9 lengths, on the heels of a couple of 2nd place finishes and a 5th as well. So he's going to be a horse that you're going to get a fair price on next time.
Yeah, TRIPSE is going to win one of these races one of these days. Things will work out for him and the price will be fair.
All right, well, let's talk about another horse whose price probably won't be too fair anytime in the near future. This is a Street Life, a well-regarded horse that broke its maiden previous to this start here, running in the Broad Brush for 3-year-olds going 1 mile 16.
Well, if he's in the Wood Memorial, his price may be fair. I'm not sure you're going to love him in there, Eric.
I don't know. I'd say right now he's probably looking on 3rd choice in there in the Wood Memorial.
He is a horse. And listen, he won this race, and I didn't particularly like him. I picked him 3rd. But the reality is he was overbet. Just because horses win doesn't mean that they should have been a shorter price. They could be overbet and still win races. The thing I liked about Street Life is I think he ran extremely well because he's kind of close up early. He had a little more speed than he did last time, but this is a much slower pace than he was in against last time. But I know it's a sprinter copying my Swagger on front. I know he's not that good, but it's still a David Jacobson horse. His horses are running very well. And Street Life looks hopelessly beaten here, and he completely overcomes a slow pace, and not a single other horse makes any run in this race.
Well, that's an interesting argument, because the other horses in the race, you could say, well, just because they didn't fire, does that make Street Life, a very good horse? It's kind of tough to tell. Look, I'm on the fence about him. I don't think he's as good as people are hyping him up to be. I think he's a pretty nice horse that, can still improve, needs to improve, if he's going to tackle races like the Grade 1 Wood Memorial. But nonetheless, I mean, right here, he is in a spot where you don't really want to be. The pace isn't all that fast. The rider's getting into him a little bit there. He's not going really anywhere, gaining much ground at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to watch him in here. He's going to drop back. Richie Migliore made a good point. I thought yesterday we were talking about this race. He thinks when Swag Daddy comes outside of him right now, it looks like he's backing up to last. That maybe he got a little bit enervated by Swag Daddy, and that propelled him forward. You watch it right in there. But the reality is that he still overcomes a slow pace, and this is a horse that severely overcame race dynamics. And to me, that's the sign of a horse who is better than he appears on paper. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not on Street Life's bandwagon, and I don't disagree with you. He's got a big following that he hasn't really earned on the racetrack, but that doesn't make him not a potentially decent horse. And sometimes, and I'm the worst at this, it's like everybody likes a horse, so I just, don't like the horse at all. And it's like you and I are like, we don't want this horse. Everybody likes the horse. It's overbet. And I'm not running the window to bet him either, but I do like the fact that he took this big step forward, I think, from his maiden win. His maiden win, the race set up perfectly for him. He made that big run, but he had the fast pace, and the race collapsed at the end. It was collapsed in the turn. This was a nice step forward. How good he is remains to be seen, but he's still a lightly raced horse.
Yeah, he is. I think the jury's still out on him, and we'll see if they decide to run in the wood, how well he goes in there.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think Chad Brown is thinking, it's not like, I have a Derby horse, I've got to have a Derby horse. It's not the way Chad Brown is thinking. And I think I can understand why an effort like this forces their hand and says, what, we've got to take a shot.
Let's see how good he is.
Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair thing. And if if he runs great, then, you see what happens. And if he doesn't run all that well, there's a million stakes for 3-year-olds all year long.
He can run him in the Peter Pan. He can try to move him forward slowly. I know that Chad thinks a lot of the horse, but, he's a horse he knows that he has to get faster. But this was a good step in the right direction.
Another Chad Brown horse we'll take a look at now, the number 1 Zevo from the 6th race on March 18th. The first-time starter breaking from the rail in a state-bred special weight race going 6.
Strikes me as a horse, Eric, and I think that you probably agree, as you see, he broke a little slowly, and you'll see him sort of lose contact with the front runners who just wasn't ready for his first start. Because as we'll see, and we're going to just watch the head-on from now on. You're going to watch him, and there's no trouble. There's trouble in the stretch, and we'll show you that you can't see in the pan. But the rider, Junior Alvarado, I mean, he is really getting into in the backstretch, and this horse is not responding at all.
No, he's very green. He's shifting in and out a little bit, back and forth throughout the backstretch run here, and he's trying to get him closer, and, he's trying to get him closer. He drifts out a couple past there, so he's having a hard time figuring things out in the early going here, but the story's going to change when they come into the stretch.
Well, he's just slow at this point. Horses like this have a tendency to have a little more speed. He's not going to be a bullet, but be a little bit closer when they run their second starts. You can see, as you said, he just doesn't respond at all. Now we're going to pick him up in the stretch where he's last. Keep an eye on this horse, because as he goes to try to get around that horse, he's going to duck out badly and interfere with Zevo and takes him sort of way out of the race. And don't forget, Zevo's just getting his legs under him, starting to rally, and that horse interferes with him.
Yeah, that's at a key point in the race for Zevo, because as you said, he's just starting to figure out things, do things the right way, and then he's got some trouble to deal with here. Coming with a good late rally, going to finish 3rd in this race here and beaten about 9 lengths. But take a look at this gallop out here. I mean, this horse is clearly going best of all after the wire, for whatever that's worth, and it'll actually gallop out in front of the rest of the field.
Well, this was a big favorite when Rick Dutcher won the race, and this horse just blows by him. Frankly, I'm glad he had that kind of trouble, because, the second horse was a horse you had pointed out in Trips and Traps last time, and you added a hit the exacta with him. So I'm glad he had that trouble, or you wouldn't have hit the exacta. Listen, I don't think Zevo's going to be a big price next time, but the way this horse ran the stretch and the way he appears to be a little green, he could turn out to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the problems with Zevo going forward in terms of betting him next time out is that people are going to bet him just off his line. All they're going to see is the beginning, the early point in the race where he's 8/12, and then they'll see at the finish he's 3/9. You'd like to be able to gain a little bit more by seeing how green he was in the backstretch, the trouble he had at the top of the stretch. So I'm not thrilled about him. Obviously, he's going to be a big threat next time out. But as far as betting him goes, I think you're looking at a short price, and he probably will win, but you're looking at a short price.
He has that running line that attracts money anyway. We can always use your comments, trips and traps at NYRink.com.
Thanks for watching.